Well, let's get started. So, a little bit about me and who I am. So, I'm Elena Luneva. I'm I've been a product operator for over 20 years. I've worked with large companies like Nextdoor and BlackRock, growing companies as a VP of product at Liquid Space. I've worked on AI products as a CPO at Braintrust. So I've worked across different industries with companies in leadership roles and in IC roles. And so what I'm doing right now is helping companies focus on product strategy, product go-to-market, building out the next revenue line and team to support building out that revenue line. This is where I thrive. This is what I've built for Nextdoor. This is what I've built for Braintrust. So I get a lot of joy and excitement working with startups and being able to do the same for them and watching them grow, watching their revenue grow. The other things that I do is work with leaders, a lot of ICs and directors who are fantastic operators, build great products. And what really gets them to that next phase is communicating those ideas, connecting them to the business, and figuring out how together with your great product skills, you can now move to working on the business. And I do that in several ways. One is through a course called Develop CPO-Level Skills, where we focus really on the business side of product. We focus on go-to-market. How do you take something that you've built and make sure that you understand who your customers are, where those customers hang out, what are the channels, and how do you get them to pay for it? The second piece is financial acumen. I talk a lot about, CFO speak. This is something I presented at Industry just the other week in Cleveland. And how do you really connect your business model with your product, with your segment, and really position your product in the market so you can grow the business? And the third area that we focus on is executive presence. So some of the things you're here for today, how do you go from a fantastic idea, from all the work you've put in it, and how do you convince people to go with you, whether it's other builders or most likely in your positions, the executive team? How do you get them to invest in the products that you're building? So the next cohort starts on Tuesday, September 23rd. Anyone who joins my lightning lesson gets 20% off with the code LIGHT. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you in class. There's several cohorts that start in October, November, and December as well. And here's some folks that have taken it. So large companies, people from Amazon, Ant Group, Nextdoor, Meta, Apple, growing companies, a lot of folks from the health tech space, and also startups. All right, so now let's get into the agenda and what we'll talk about today. Executive presence is a lot of things. It's how you show up. How do you get people to trust you? How do you communicate verbally? How do you communicate through Slack? And how do you represent your company in external situations? So today we're going to focus on a small but very important piece of that, and that's pacing and tone. We'll go through some of the common pitfalls that leaders face. We'll do some coaching exercises, and I'll also go through AI tools that exist that you can practice with so that this isn't a one-off framework that Elena taught, but you can get better on your own with AI, or hire or work with a person that you trust to kind of repeat and get yourself to be that representative of the company that you're looking to be. So I want to start with a person that a lot of my students say is a great speaker. When I ask them, when you think about a great speaker, who comes to mind? And so Michelle Obama comes to mind. So let's listen to a small clip, and then I'd love to know what you thought about how she presents herself.
Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. We're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know
Anyone want to say what emotions come to mind when you just heard of Michelle speak? Everybody's speechless. Well, some of the things that come to my mind are she makes eye contact. She takes up the space. She makes hand gestures. She really goes through the things that are going through America right now. Yes, Felicia, strong tone. James, inspiring. That EQ is what Rye mentioned. So let's go through some of that and how you can, well, I don't know about be like Michelle, but maybe get really, really close. We all have aspirations. And starting with the why. As you go from a product leader in the company to an executive at the company, companies today hire leaders who can represent the company. That is to the board, to their shareholders, and to their customers and prospects, and on social channels. Maybe it's LinkedIn and talking about a recent launch. Maybe it's to Forbes or maybe another journalist publication telling that publication why your company matters. So the higher you rise in a company, the more important communication becomes and how you represent yourself. And so for executive presence, it's all about clarity, pacing, tone, and style. So the three elements that form that triad are pacing, tone, and style. So when you think about what's behind those words, let's start with pacing. Too fast is frequently what happens to people when they get nervous. Like you get all the adrenaline coming up. You feel like you've just ran a sprint. You're breathing, all of your emotions are going through you. The bubbles of, oh my gosh, people are going to hear me and I'm not going to be behind the scenes anymore. That make you talk much faster. And so what you're trying to convey doesn't land. Sometimes it's too slow, like you've woken up, you showed up to work. That kind of feels like enough. But then it feels like to people who are listening to you that you don't care about them, you don't care about your work. Or just right. Just think of Michelle Obama. Think of a great talk, TED Talk. They inspire, they capture you, you somehow trust them. They take up that space. The second one we are going to talk about is tone. So just think about that speaker that goes through the all hands presentation and it's flat and monotone, and you're on Slack and you're checking email and you have no idea what people have said in the last hour. That's flat and monotone versus variety. Like here is what we're going to talk about. That energy, that rising energy to really highlight the things that are important. And style. Style changes with your audience. So it's not about what you're trying to convey. It's really about your audience and what they want to hear. And we talk a lot more about style and various framework and really connecting with your audience in my course. But today we'll focus on pacing and tone. So pacing and tone style issues. We've talked through some of them, but pacing, talking too fast, rushing through key points, no pauses, no inflections. Tone, that flat monotone, same energy throughout. Or sometimes it's that overall loud, harsh, under stress, we just need to deliver it. And people feel like they're getting yelled at. That's not what you're going for. Maybe it is, but maybe not in that situation. And then style. This comes up in executive communication, but it also comes up when you are going through an interview process. When you have your 30 minutes, your 45 minutes to cram your entire professional history in that one question and make sure that your hiring manager, the CFO you're talking to, the engineering partner you're talking to, is convinced that you are the person for the job. So how do you get rid of all the filler, all the details that are unnecessary to tell your story in a way that resonates with your audience? So let's do an exercise and hopefully a little bit more audience participation. Otherwise, it's going to be me reading all three in different tones, but hopefully I can get a volunteer. So let me actually escape out of here and give you a link to the presentation and see if anybody can go with me. So first of all, can you read this sentence as quickly as you can? So here is the presentation. And here is the sentence. Any brave volunteers?
I think you need to give us access, Elena.
Oh, good call. Thank you for calling that out. That second link. It is. Let me try it again. Do you have it now? That one? Oh, no, you don't. Here we go. All right, you have access now. Jason, do you want to read the Q4 results as fast as you can?
All right, as fast as I can. Our Q4 results exceeded expectations, but success depends on how clearly we communicate our strategy moving forward. I'm out of breath.
There we go. There we go. Nobody had any idea what success actually depends on. Deepti, can I pick on you to read it really slowly if you have kids, like you're reading it to your kids and you really want them to fall asleep, or maybe your, friends' kids?
No, actually, I beg your pardon because I just had to run out for 5 minutes. I'll be in front of my computer again in
Sounds
5
good.
minutes.
Sounds good. Anybody brave
I'm
enough,
sorry
or
about
do you
that.
want me to do it?
Yeah.
No worries, no worries. Hard to know the context of everybody and where they're tuning in from. But I'll go. So let's say I read it. Our Q4 results exceed expectations, but success depends on how clearly we communicate our strategy moving forward. So if you right away feel like, either this person's really tuned out and really the strategy doesn't matter. But if you read it in a different way, our Q4 results exceed expectations. Pause. But success depends on how clearly we communicate our strategy moving forward. You already understand what matters just from that change, that inflection, those pauses that you can do as a matter of practicing pacing and how you insert different inflections in your tone. So we're going to come to this worksheet next, which you all should have access to, about pacing issues and the fixes and various AI tools that you can use to then practice. So let's get into pacing. So why pacing matters? There's a level of rhythm in your delivery that helps the message sticks. We talked through several aspects, like too fast, too slow. Another one is when people don't take pauses. Other pieces are things like uneven pacing, when you don't inflect specific words. So speaking too fast, a way that you can exercise is you can record a 60-second pitch and underline the spots where you should pause. Then re-record with the pauses and feel for yourself, how does that change? At the beginning, if you're not used to it, it might feel like you are, taking up more space or taking up more time than you're allowed to have. And that's a good feeling. A tool that can help you here is Udly, and I'll go through an example in a minute, that can record and help you get some of those pacing and some of those inflection pieces to help you practice. Another fun one is the no pauses. Because people don't put pauses into what they talk about, frequently, especially in a scenario when you're overwhelmed, you're speaking too fast, you're starting to speak so fast that your brain doesn't catch up to where you are in the narrative. And you forget, rightfully, what you're about to say next. So instead, build comfort with silence. How you can practice is say a sentence, stop, and then silently count to 2, and then continue. Some of the things I teach my direct reports, my executive coaching clients is this. When you said your message, stop. Frequently, people ramble on. They hear that their executives, the people that they're talking to, aren't responding. So they're like, all right, let me fill in that silence. Let me tell them more things. Frequently, those people don't need more details. They're just trying to absorb what you already said. So be comfortable with the pauses. And so a way to coach yourself with AI is through Microsoft Speaker Coach. This is already integrated with the Microsoft Suite if you're a user. What it helps you with is highlighting where you didn't pause. So that way you can be aware of that and then add those pauses inside. The fourth one is uneven pacing. This goes a lot into storytelling, but identifying that signal versus the supporting detail. Where do you really need to focus? A way to practice this is to take a 2-minute update or maybe something you're about to present in a meeting that's coming up tomorrow. And then highlight those 3 key points. Now deliver again, slowing down on only those 3. Sure, there could be supporting evidence. Sure, there could be anecdotes, but what are the 3 key takeaways that are super important? So a tool that can help you is called Descript. This is a tool used primarily for podcast recording, but what it helps you do is get that waveform around where you're talking too much or too fast and where you're inflecting or spending the most emphasis. So another tool in your toolbox. So let me present to you just an example of Udly and a presentation that I did recently. Oops, that's not it. And give you just a preview of what it can do for you. So here's a recording I did about AI executive presence for this class. And what it does is it enables you to record yourself. And then it gives you various analytics. So for example, nice job. It's natural to have fewer than 4% filler words. So I still had filler words, but I'm a person. So sometimes I have the the basically, the exactly that's put in, but it's not a high percentage of my speech. It can highlight weak words for you. So is a weak word for me. It's something that I use as a bridge when my brain is trying to catch up to what I'm saying. And when you look at the filler words, it highlights the ones that you use. When you're aware of them, you can program yourself to use them less. Conciseness. When you're starting to focus on delivering your presentation, if you can focus on how do you change that from all the words to here's a specific message I'm delivering. So you can practice again then after you've done a recording with the awareness of the things that you can work on. You have access to the templates. and you can start practicing with those. Now let's do another short video and pay attention to her tone in this video.
Because our appearances can make or break an opportunity for us, whether you're applying for a job, or maybe you're representing an organization, or maybe you're dating, right?
So as you saw with her, there was a level of pacing, there was the level of taking up space, pauses, inflection. You saw that she smiled when she mentioned, maybe you're dating. That enabled her to relate to you, relate to people who go through people things, like maybe they're going on a date, maybe they have kids. So relatable to the audience makes you feel much more trustworthy. So let's talk about tone. Any reader volunteers? Give me a yes or no, otherwise I'll do it myself.
I can try.
All right. Can you read the first sentence? We are launching next week.
We are launching next week.
That's great. Can you now do it in an authoritative way?
We are launching next week.
I'm going to go with you. Some other ways you can do it is empathetic when you're trying to thank your team. So something like we're launching next week, or inspiring, energetic, and visionary. We are launching next week to get your team to go with you. And so depending on who you're speaking with and what that audience need, you can change your tone to match that audience's need. Do they need to feel confident that you're the leader for this project? Do they need to feel thanked? Do they need to feel anxious and urgency that this needs to happen next week? And so how you use your tone, how you use your voice changes based on what you're trying to convey and your audience.
You can try.
Yeah.
Team, we are launching next week.
There we go. Now I'm excited about launching next week. Thank you for that. So let's go into a couple of practices and handouts for this one. Let me share it with you first on tone and how you can practice your tone. Thank you, Deepti, for that. So let me know if you have access to it. Otherwise, I will get back to it and go through it. So some of the issues with tone, the biggest one I see people struggle with, especially operators who are really good at building fantastic products, is flatness and monotones. You're so overwhelmed. You're so over building your products. You're so over trying to keep conveying it to people who still don't get why it's so exciting. And that tone is that flat monotone tone. A way to practice variety is back to emphasizing one or two keywords in each sentence. You can read a paragraph once, read it in a monotone way, the way Deepti did. Then reread with exaggerating various highs and lows. At first, it'll feel really weird, but as you practice through it, it becomes more natural. Another one is overly harsh or loud. I moved to the Bay Area from New York, from a financial institution, from BlackRock. And so the way that I communicated in a financial setting was very direct, very to the point, very harsh when I moved to the Bay Area. That needed a much more different tone for them to come with me and deliver on the projects I wanted them to do. So when you're managing a team, when you're trying to get people to agree, when you're managing cross-functional disagreement, that ability to pause and say, hey, I hear you. Here's what you said. And let's work on this together goes a long way to de-escalate various cross-functional troubles or things in your way. And Udly that we just looked at gives you some of that tone feedback. So when you've done a recording of yourself, how do you come across? So if you go in the coaching tab, you can see how did you come across? So for me, I was enthusiastic and clear about the purpose and the pitch, but I wasn't very specific and I wasn't structured in my content delivery. It was a practice pitch for me. That's not what I was going for, and it completely picked up on that. The other piece that it can give you is various follow-up questions. So when you're thinking about the audience and who you're speaking to, what are some of the ways you think they might come back to you with questions so you can be prepared for some of the things that come your way? The other piece is lack of emphasis, and we talked a little bit through that, but if everything is important, nothing is important. So thinking about your story, thinking about what you want your audience to take away from it really goes a long way here. And companies like Voice Vibes help you label delivery around confidence, engagement, energizing delivery. And then the one that executives struggle with, or like people who've just become executives, are same tone for every audience. So as directors, as people managers, as product leaders, we are used to talking to our R&D team. We're used to clarifying what needs to be built for what audience on what timeline. We have a specific tone that we use to talk to our teams. That tone needs to be different when you're talking to an executive, when you're talking to an audience of 1,000 people, or when you're talking to the board. So knowing your audience goes a long way, but then practicing that different tonality like we just did helps with understanding the nuance there. And sounding uncertain. This is something I've had with myself. It's something that I've had with a lot of people who move from IC to director or executive positions. There's a level of question at the end. Hey, am I doing this right? Can I get your approval? So there's a level of inflection at the end of the sentence, at the end of the question. When you're trying to say a sentence and you're trying to say, yes, I am doing this right. Yes, you should follow me. And there's a very different tone there that gets conveyed. And depending on how you say it, that's how you get perceived. Sometimes you get perceived as junior because of how you position what you say. You position what you say as a question rather than a statement, both in the words that you use, in how you deliver it, and then the tone of your voice. So a way to practice this is what we just did. We're launching next week. If you say, we're launching next week, you could see that people might get a little anxious if you present, we're launching next week in that way. So if you use a combination of Orai and Udly, that is a way to help you with coaching through an AI. So what Orai does is look at pace, conciseness, energy, confidence, pauses. So all of the different things that we talked through. And similar to Udly, you record yourself. It gives you some of the pacing and other attributes of your speech, and it helps coach you through it. So style is an adaptation of the things we just talked about, pacing and tone to your audience. Style is all about making you heard. You might say all the right words, you might say it in all the right tones, but if you don't understand the context of your audience, where they're coming from, your message will still fall flat. And so style and knowing your audience, how to present in different ways, how to think about your body, how you show up visually, how you show up on Slack, are some of the things I work with my students on and develop CPO level skills, because the combination of those tools is something that helps you work on the business as a product leader or another leader in the company. But for now, you have the tools, you have the various coaching practices, and what you need to do is start. Record yourself, review what is it that you need to work on, and refine. And this helps you do it in a private way. You can do it at any point. You can make a 10-minute practice every day to practice something you're going to talk about tomorrow, and then refine and get better over time in a way that's private to you, in a way that you can get results right away. Well, that's all I had for today. I'm going to stop sharing and head back to you all, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, Gautam. And I'm going to drop in the link to develop CPO level skills. I'd love to see some of you in class. And if you have questions about any of this, let me know. I have a past recording about executive presence that I will also drop a link to. Thank you all. Thanks, Rai. All right, you all. I don't see any questions, so I think we can end right here. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Hey,
Thanks, Irina.
Elena,
Oh,
am I
oh,
missing the
go ahead,
link for
Dipti.
you mentioned about the link, some of the links. I'm not sure did I miss it or?
Which link were you talking about? To the
Um,
presentation, to the past recording?
Yeah, I think the past recordings I haven't seen, and I think I just found the link for the class. There is a
Perfect.
class
Okay.
also, right? To
Yes.
CPO
So
level skills.
here,
Okay.
yeah. So here is here's a link to develop CPO level skills. We cover 4 foundational aspects of moving from product leadership to working on the business.
Okay.
And those 4 things are, hey, you've created great products and you're wondering why marketing, why sales isn't selling the products. Really focusing on go-to-market, that cross-team collaboration, and getting your product found and getting your product paid for. The second piece that we talk through is financials and how to talk CFO. So you might build fantastic products, but something like the pricing doesn't work, or pricing doesn't match the willingness to pay of your customers. So thinking through financials, financial fundamentals, tying that to the products that you build. And then the third module focuses on some of what we just talked through. How do you know your audience? How do you leverage AI to really give yourself that insight into how your CFO speaks? What kind of questions are they going to ask? And then how do you present your business case in a way that resonates? How do you present your business in external settings? How do you talk to customers and become more of that external facing person for your leadership team? And the fourth module is all about influence. We all need people in order to get things done. And so how do you identify your drainers, your stakeholders, how they receive information, and the various nets of people and interconnectedness, so you can influence your business and influence other executives in your business to deliver on the projects that you need.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And the code that you can use is LIGHT, and that gives you 20% off for the course. And the other piece I think you asked about is various past recordings. You can find them here. And some of the lightning lessons I gave previously are around AI adoption at your company, go-to-market fundamentals, building a P&L model. So if any of those are relevant to you, you can
Okay.
check out those past recordings here, but thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for relaying the information again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, DT. Well, thank you all for sticking around and have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thanks. Bye.